Started. Perfect. Okay. I'm going to put this on Jason because Jason's going first. That's what we decided.
Yeah, let me screen share here.
Okay.
Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. All right, let me start this. All right, so like I said, I'm no guru at this stuff, so if anyone wants to chime in on anything, let me know. This is pretty basic, so this is probably preaching to the choir for some, and then others like myself, it was a bit of a refresher, so I think it might be good all around. We'll see, but I just wanted to, I found these online, found they were kind of funny just to kind of let you look at those for a second.
Just another kind of.
Nice.
Very good. Sometimes it's good just to kind of realize that we're all human and kind of sit back and take it in. So I'm using the NetBeans IDE. I know some of you mentioned that you might be using yours as well. You'd be using NetBeans as well. If you're curious about how to quickly create a JavaScript file, which is probably one of the ways you should create JavaScript, then just once you've created your actual project, as you can see mine there, Jason's portfolio, I have a site root folder. You just right click on that, select new, and then select JavaScript file, and that'll get you started, and that'll create just a blank JavaScript file. So yeah, this will be the basics of JavaScript, and there's a couple different ways that you can add JavaScript to your document. The first way, which I recommend, especially if you're going to be adding a lot of JavaScript, is to include a link. So in my head there, I just included with the script tag there, you can just include a link. My file is script.js, so where it says src up here for source, this is going to be just script.js, and if you have it in a different folder, you might need to kind of show it with being within that folder, but that was my link there. And then you can also just include it right in the document itself. So if you want to just include script tags, this example shows it being right in the body of the HTML document, and you can put your function right in there if you want to, okay? So functions, that's the heart of JavaScript. That's which makes everything so much easier. They're a great way to reuse code, and then also if you need to define something over and over again using different parameters, you can use functions. And most of you will know that from other programming languages that you've used previously. So some syntax for function is as follows. You can see right here, we have, you just want to, and you can put this anywhere in your JavaScript file. It should just be an empty file. You can just plop this right in there, and it should work. But this will perform a particular task, and it'll only run when something else calls it. So you'll just want to write function, and then the name of your function after that, and then along with the parameters you'll be using in parentheses.
Hey, Jason.
Oh yeah, sure.
No, that's okay. A couple things. I think you can put JavaScript in the main, I guess the index file, but don't they say that can get really long and tedious? So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so
much
that's
better to separate it and keep it all in, separate little.
Yeah, so that's why I recommend doing, when I said back here, putting it in that, making a link and putting it in a separate file. Unless you have a really simple page, that's probably what I would do.
And then one other thing when you're naming your functions, I think they call that camel case or something like that.
Yeah.
The lowercase first word and the uppercase second word, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, I'm just trying to refresh my brain.
Yeah, no problem. So here's an example of a function call. I wouldn't pay too much attention to this. I mean, if you've never seen the document.getElement by ID .inner.html before. Don't worry too much about that, but basically what that's going to do is it's going to fill a certain like a div or an element on the web page using this function here. So the function is, we're passing these parameters 4 and 3, and it's going to times those together and then return the results, which will fill in that part of the web page. But that's a simple function call.
Yeah, for those who don't know what the document.getElement by ID, basically this p tag at the very top here, that's the element. So all it's going to do is it's going to take 4 times 3, which is 12, and it's going to stick the number 12 between the p tags.
Oh, okay. That's it. It says, oh, here's where demo goes.
Exactly.
Right.
So what it's saying is, okay, go grab the element with the ID of demo, which happens to be this p tag.
And right there.
Yeah.
And then take the whatever's from the function and put it in the inner HTML, meaning inside the p tag.
Yeah. And hopefully, I think that's going to be covered in one of the other sections. Hopefully it does get covered, but if not, we can always go over that too. So. Okay, and then just some basic rules for function parameters. Some of these might change from language to language, so just keep these in mind. Is that function definitions do not specify data types for parameters. So you might, if anyone's done C++ before, remember you have to specify whether it's an integer or float or a string, things like that. But as you saw back here, we're not, we're not specifying. We're actually just throwing that parameter in there. Okay. And then there's no checking of what type it is. And also, I found this interesting. I didn't know this before, but in JavaScript, that it doesn't check the number of arguments that are received. So in C++, if you tried to compile your program and you had, the wrong number of arguments, it would give you a compile error. But in JavaScript, it'll just, if you have too many arguments, you pass too many arguments to that function, it'll just, they'll just be undefined, basically.
Yeah, it'll just use whatever you are using. Meaning if you pass it 4, but you're only using 2, it'll only take the first 2.
Right.
Which is nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm liking it already. So, and then another thing just to remember is that JavaScript arguments are passed by value, whereas you might be used to passing arguments by reference before, or you pass a certain location in memory. But here you're actually just passing it the value. So back before we were passing it 4. It's not passing the place in memory where 4 is located. It's actually passing the value 4. Okay.
Yeah. So another way to think of that is if you've got a variable, say you had a variable var1 equals 4, okay, and you were passing that in, and say you added 1 to it in your function, and then after that you had your variable that was 4, you added 1 to it in your function. Once you come back out of the function and you try and see what that variable was, the variable is still 4.
Mm-hmm.
It's just inside the function, it's been added to 1. Versus if you call it by reference, you're actually passing the variable itself in not just the number that the variable has. I don't know if that just made it worse. Sorry.
Okay.
If that made it worse, I'm sorry.
No, I think that works. Does anyone have any questions? We good? And I'm sure, has everyone used conditional statements before? If, else, else if?
I've never used switch, but I've seen the if, else, and else if.
Okay. So yeah, just really quickly, the if, else, and else if, just mainly you just want to, if is going to start you off, you check if that condition is true, and then it'll execute that block of code beneath it. And then if you have multiple, you'll use else, or you can use else if, and as long as none of the statements before it were true, they were all false, and that statement's true in the else if statement, it'll execute that block of code. And else is just kind of a catch-all at the end. If none of those statements before it were true, it'll execute that block of code. And switch is handy simply because you can, it kind of tidies things up and makes it a little cleaner. We can show an example here in just a moment. Here's an example of using those in syntax in JavaScript. That kind of makes sense to everyone there.
Well, I kind of have a question.
Sure.
Okay, so your first if is time is less than 10.
Yeah.
20, and then it says else if time is less than 20. Now 10 is less than 20, or does
Right.
it know that once it hits 11, it's past the less than 10? Is it in like this? It already knows that.
Yeah. So if it executes in here, then that's the one that we're going to use. But if we go on, if it's over 10, then we'll move to the next, and as long as it's below 20, then it'll accept that block of code, and then again, that else is just kind of a catch-all. If it doesn't meet any of these conditions here, then it'll just print that. Okay. So here's a switch. So
I've seen this before.
yeah, it'll probably look familiar, but you put your expression in there, and then you'll have different cases. A lot of time it's you can use all sorts of different cases. A lot of the time it's just numbers, so you'll have like case 1, case 2, and so on and so forth. But just remember with this to put your break in there so that it breaks out once you're done, and then also a default in case it doesn't hit any of these cases, your condition isn't met. The default is kind of like that else statement before, where if nothing's caught, then it'll execute this block of code here.
And you don't need a break at the end of that?
I don't know why I didn't put a break there, but I think I usually have had breaks in the past. That was my bad.
Yeah, I think you're supposed to.
Yeah, I just forgot.
Is this used in JavaScript? I mean, I know Java uses it too, but do you put this in JavaScript, or are you putting this in the file?
So you can use this. I'll show you an example in a moment, but yeah, you use this in like any of your functions, in any of your JavaScript code in that Java file.
Within the tag script tags.
So with those script tags.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Does it go? Is that where?
As long as it's the second example here, where you're putting it
in between those tags.
Yeah, in the actual HTML body, the actual document. Then then you can put it in there. But yeah, otherwise you can just, like I said, the easiest option is just put it in your Java file and use it in the function in there.
Okay.
So then variables, which again are a lot easier than in C++. It's kind of nice. Just basically to declare variable, just type var, and then your variable name. So I just, camel case, put var name in there as an example. But in this case, you have to remember that they are case sensitive. So you need to begin those. They always have to begin with a letter, and just remember that they are case sensitive. Okay. And then for declaring it, you can do the declare and define at the same time, which will save you some lines of code. Just var and then your name of your variable, and then equals whatever you want to set it equal to, whether it's a number or a string. And then to declare and define multiple variables at once. I hadn't done this before, but this is something that's optional to you. You can declare all of them at once if you need to. And that's the syntax for it there.
Something to point out is that the equal sign here is different than a normal equal sign. What the equal sign when you're the variable technically kind of means assign. And so you're saying take the word something and assign it to this variable. Versus when we were looking at the if, else, you would use a double equal sign to actually check if they were equal.
Exactly. So this
number like this.
Yeah, so it's assigning it to something. It's not comparing it where that would be double equal signs, okay? And then we have loops. Probably don't need to spend a ton of time. Does everyone understand loops?
I'm good with the loops.
Good with loops. Okay, yeah, it's just, works really well with arrays, which I'm sure we'll be using quite a bit, and also objects. But basically, yeah, that's kind of your syntax there. Does anyone have any questions about those? I knew there was going to be some things I didn't have to spend a lot of time on, but if you do have any questions, we can definitely go over them. Okay.
Loops looks just like the other. It looks like the same type of syntax I've used in the past.
Yeah, it should be pretty familiar. Okay. So then arrays. This can be a little bit different, not too much from other programming languages, but they hold multiple values. We're going to compare arrays with another type or object, basically, but they're pretty similar. But we'll talk about those in just a moment. So that's the syntax for creating an array there, if you're just going to hard code that in. Of course, you can also fill those in other methods. And then accessing the array, you can basically just use the index if you want to just pick an item out of the array, a single element, or you can simply just access the full array, which is pretty handy just by giving the name of the array, which in this case was cars. And you can use new, but everywhere I went recommended that you don't try this. They said it can create issues. Most people just stick with something like what we have above here. So I would,
I'm just where it says accessing array, it says cars and then the 0 in the brackets there.
Okay, so
that's referring to SOB in this case, right?
Yes, yeah. Yep, exactly. So that's the first, so we're not starting with 1, we're going to
start with 0.
We start with 0, so that's the first index in the array, which would be
that's it.
Yeah, which would be SOB, okay?
Hey, is the double slashes, is that how you comment stuff out in JavaScript?
Yeah, you can definitely use that as well.
Or it's not pound signs then, right? It's the...
No, I don't know if you can you use, I'm sure you could probably use pound signs as well. I don't know.
You can't use slashes in HTML though. It's got to be like the
it has to be
less than sign. Yeah, it's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, but as long as you're in JavaScript, you can use the where are they, backslashes?
Yeah, two backslashes is a single line comment. A backslash and an asterisk is an opening of a multi-line comment, and then an asterisk and a backslash is a closing.
Well, they're actually forward slashes. I'm sorry.
Forward slashes, yeah.
Yeah, they are forward slashes.
Yeah, the one that's under the question mark, not the one with the pipe on the keyboard.
Correct. Yeah, that's the forward.
All right. Okay. All right. And so just really quickly, these are just some of the, you'll probably have to look up most of these again, but these just give you some examples and some tools that you can use with arrays. So, like if you're going to find a property, this one you'll probably use quite a bit, the dot length for an array. Just append that to it, and you can get the length of an array. Sort is great. Use that one quite a bit, and then you can reverse sort as well. Pop removes the last element from the array. Okay. Push, and then if you include your item within the parentheses, will actually add a new item to the back of the array. Shift removes the first element and then moves all these elements over. And then in this example, you can delete an item out of an array. I'm not too sure how often you'll be using this, but because it leaves that item undefined. But in this case, we're giving it the index of 0, so the first item in the array, we just want to delete that. Splices would be probably pretty useful. And this one's a little confusing. If you look at the 2 and the 0 here, these are kind of giving some instructions for the splicing. So the first parameter defines the position, and the second defines how many of those are going to be removed. So in this case, first parameter defines position, the second defines how many. So so position 2 in the array. So back in our last array, we'd move over by 2, and that's where we're going to insert these 2 new items, new 1 and new 2. Let's see. And then concat, basically will combine or merge an array. So we have our new array, array 3, which will equal array 1, basically plus array 2, combines those 2 together. Slice will remove a section of an array starting at index 1 and ending at 3. And then the toString will convert an array to a comma-separated string. Okay, now, so the last, this is a little confusing because in his schedule that he gave us, he said to talk about associative arrays, but as far as I could find online, it's a bit of a misnomer when talking about JavaScript, because I think it should be an object. Associative arrays are only used in PHP. Apparently JavaScript and Java have no capability of working with associative arrays. So we'll talk about objects instead, okay? But an object is very similar to an array, only the indexes are not numbered, they're actual names, so they're named indexes. And here's the syntax for creating that. So you'd have a person, this is your object, and equals, and you put it in curly braces, and then this will be the name or index you could use to find that part of that object, which would be John. And should have put your last name in there, John. So yeah, that's how you create it. Then you can access properties similar to how you would with an array. And then some of the methods would be if you're going to access just a part of that array. Say we're creating a new variable name, which equals the person's full name. I don't have it in here, but I should have just used first name. But if you're going to access the first name, you use person dot first name, and that will give you John. Okay. And that is pretty much it for this. Does anyone have any questions?
I just have a comment.
Sure.
Something that the schedule mentioned, if you remember, looked at the teaching schedule, it didn't mention JavaScript loops, arrays, or anything. It just said loops, arrays, functions. So it just wanted an overview of what they were necessarily. So I'm glad you went and found associative arrays, even though you didn't find them in JavaScript.
Yeah. Yeah, so I tried to stick to Java because he said that was mainly what we were going to be working with. But just for clarification, Java and JavaScript don't work in associative arrays. They work in objects. They don't support associative arrays. So there's like other languages that support it, like Perl, PHP. So yeah, take it as what you will. Okay. And I don't know if you guys want to see an example. I started working on, I didn't get all the way through this, but
go ahead and show it.
Yeah, so here's this is working with conditional statements, functions, and parameters. And basically, I'm just giving some options of things you can type in. If you type in up, hit enter, it'll, give you a different image. Down, and then, just different numbers. So this is using, I'll show you the code here. So
can you make that full screen? That's hard on, I can't really see.
I know, I wish I could make the text bigger. I haven't been able to find a way to make that any bigger. I don't know if
can.
You can, I did.
It's under format.
It's under format. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
there
you
was-
just make your font size. Just jump it up really big and you'll be good. You can always change it back.
Where is format? Format. Here we go. Oh, that's just.
Yeah, so like format and then like preferences. What you can also do, Mark, is if you do control minus, which seems counterintuitive, but it will actually make your screen bigger so you can see a little easier if you're in Google Plus. I know, it's almost like you're making it smaller, but you're making the screen itself smaller so the image itself can be bigger. So you're technically zooming out to zoom the image in. You can try that. I do that all the time.
I remember I Googled on how to do it, and that's how I changed it.
Yeah, so you just go under format and there should be like a preferences.
I'm not seeing format here. Am I missing
format. No, maybe it's under like edit.
that? Edit.
Maybe it's like edit preferences. Or maybe tools.
Maybe tools. Let's see.
Options. There you go.
Let's try options. Yeah, see here.
And then there should be format under here possibly.
Yeah, see in terminal I've got font size and I increase it.
Yeah. Yeah, so just increase that a bunch and then hit apply. And that should.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to do anything.
Oh, but that's terminal. That's why. Never mind.
Oh.
Yeah. Terminal is when you're actually creating terminal applications and things.
Oh, I see.
So
Well,
there should be like yeah, so fonts and colors. Maybe that's up at the top there, fonts and colors.
Here we go. Here we go.
Yeah,
And then-
that's where I did it.
Yeah, and then just change the font size.
There we go.
Yeah, right there. Let's change it to like 30 something, 24.
I'm gonna go with 24. Okay.
There you go, 24.
Let's try that. Hey, wow. That's
And then make it full screen.
Yeah. Can everyone see that?
Oh, the wonders.
Okay, so yeah, so this is my HTML document here. And basically, here's my input where the button is, which we'll talk about later, the on clicks and that. This is where the function is being called, is right here. So function 1, okay? And hopefully we'll be talking about all this again, like get element by ID and dot value and things like that. Okay. And then within my JavaScript file here, here's function 1. And I'm using some if-else statements. So if the user input is up or down, then I'm going to call another function over here. And these are all split up just to basically kind of show that we can use different, switch and else if statements, just different functionality basically. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done it this way.
Yeah. Gotta prove you learned it.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, so there's another function that's being called here if it is either of those. And I'm basically just changing the image source once I go into these. And then the else is going to take us to this function here, which is gives you an example of the switch case statement. Okay.
Oh, good. You did make it so that if they didn't put in anything else, you had the default in a switch.
Right. Yep.
Good. I was just sitting here thinking, well, what if I didn't enter anything?
Yeah.
And I clicked it.
Yeah, and
Would
this
it blow
could be more foolproof. I've just I've tried to do the best with the time that I have. So
no, you had it pretty good. That was pretty bulletproof.
And then the next example is just kind of showing how if we were to create an array, so I'm just going to add items. So this is like an apple. We'll just create some fruit. Like that. Okay, and it's going to slowly append that, and it's also going to sort those as well. So that function. Sorry, guys, I'm taking a lot of time here. I'm pretty much
There's
done
only 2 presenters, so you're good.
Yeah, so I'm pretty much done at this point, but just showing you the second function here, which is just showing you that you know, we can push items onto that array there, and then also sort it. And then when we go to display, it should be a nicely sorted array.
Now, what happens if you were to put multiple items, meaning you were to type it in and have commas between them? Would it
And
push
commas,
all of them?
it probably mess it up, but like I said, I haven't done a lot with it. Just let's do orange.
And a kiwi.
That's what I was going to put.
Oh, that's really funny, because I totally thought orange and then you thought kiwi.
Yeah.
That's funny.
They put an orange dot. Is that a comma? Or?
Yeah, so it's considering this as one item, I think. Cause
Exactly.
Yeah, so.
That's why
I call that a win.
A win. You're right. Okay, that's me done, unless anyone has any other questions.
I think I'm good.
Good.
All right, everybody.
You can keep going.
I can keep going, right? No, I think I'm done there. Okay.
Okay, that means it's my turn, right?
Correct.
So I will share my screen. Maybe I'll get to look at Jason there. Can let me know you see that?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so HTML headings. Well, actually, I guess I should have changed that to say tags. So pretend it says tags. I started doing it and then I realized it was not just headings. I'm doing different tags. I thought, first of all, since, you know, let's start with what HTML5 is. So it's the latest version of HTML, and with this new version, it defines a parsing algorithm for generating a consistent DOM, which we'll be talking about later, document object model tree, even from ambiguous or poor quality markup, which is going to be nice for when I probably don't write things as well as I should. It'll still work. Like when you add a comma in between banana and orange. Elements to support multimedia, which I'll talk a little bit about tonight, and web applications. Redefines the rules and semantics of existing HTML elements. With HTML5, you can embed audio and video natively within HTML documents. So that's what I will be talking about tonight. You can use inline SVG, which is scalable vector graphics markup. I don't know exactly what that is. It was just part of what it does. Not sure if we're covering that or not. It sounds kind of cool. Anything that has the word vector in it has got to be cut.
It's a very cool word.
I think basically just what that means is that the image will actually scale down so that it won't vector. So it'll be able to scale vector-based a graphic. So instead of getting, if you're going to scale it really big, it goes really pixelated. Or if you scale it really small, it doesn't exactly get the quality better, it just scales it smaller. Whereas if you do it by vectors, it will actually scale it to the point where it isn't pixelated and it looks good in any form.
That's
all right. There you go.
Could be wrong. That's my interpretation.
Sounds good.
Yeah. You can build more robust form experiences complete with native error checking. Now, I have a friend who is a web designer. I mean, that's what he does. And I had him look at this to see if it all made sense. And what he said, he goes, you know, you can do that. It'll do it. But it's not easy to you know, build forms on HTML. It's much easier. He named a company that he uses that they design the forms, and you know, he pays whatever a month to use however many forms he wants to use, type thing. And I guess if you're in it for a business, that would make sense. But you know, if we're asked to do a form, then at least we know we can do it through HTML5. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can create
Yeah,
games.
they have things. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going
Oh,
to
go
add to
ahead.
that. They have some of the things that help with native error checking is they've added like the required feature, which I don't know if you guys have seen it, but if you add a required to an input and then you go actually do your form and you click on it and click your submit button, it will actually highlight it and put an orange required next to it to let you know it's required. Like it'll tell you, hey, this one's required before it'll actually ever submit anything, which I think is pretty nice because there are times where I'm like, oh, I missed that one. Whew.
Can create games, charts, and animations using the canvas element, which I will cover a little bit. Everything I'm covering is pretty basic, so I hope that's okay, because we're at week 2. So,
Must be basic.
yeah, documents can communicate with each other using cross-document messaging. Words HTML5 is much more of an application platform, not just a markup language. Okay, so HTML tags. I wanted to talk a little bit about the tags itself. I asked, you know, I Googled how many tags are there, and nobody ever actually said how many, but there's a ton. There's a lot of different tags. And the way I read the assignment is HTML tags, and then the tags that I'm supposed to cover are audio, video, and canvas. Maybe I misread it, but I wanted to cover a little bit about it. And all the tags begin with a left-facing angle bracket and end with a right-facing angle bracket with a / in front of that. So there's a little bit of sample code for that. As you can see, you know, it always starts with the doc type HTML, and then it says HTML, and then that closing tag is at the very bottom, and then you have head and the body, and a P is a paragraph tag. Title actually is the words up on the tab at the top of the page is title, which, you know, something I learned. All right, and then so I'm going to cover a little bit about heading tags. You got H1 through H6. Pretty quick. H1 defines the most important heading, and H6 is the least important heading. Heading element briefly describes the topic of the section it introduces. And this heading information may be used by user agents, for example, to construct a table of contents for a document automatically. And heading element implies all the font changes, paragraph breaks before and after, and any white space necessary to render the heading. Okay, a couple of things. It says not to use headings to make big text or bold. They're supposed to be for headings only. And this was interesting. Search engines use your headings to index the structure and content of your web pages. Mm-hmm. So but that was interesting. And this also that people, you know, that, and I find this true, users skim your pages by its headings.
Yep.
It is important headings to show the document structure.
That's how I do it.
So this is some sample code, you know, for the H1. the heading elements and the set, summary H2 and then some text. Then we drop down to H3 and okay, so, and then it looks something like this, you know, it's not perfect, but gives you an idea of how H1 is much bigger and then the H2 is smaller and then the paragraph is much smaller than that. So I think that's kind of self-explanatory, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not to be confused with the head tag, and the head tag is just metadata, and it's not display.
I think it's called metadata.
Metadata. Thank you. What did I say?
I think you said meta.
Meta. I'm thinking of dinner. Meat. I need some meat. Metadata. There you go. Okay, so now to move on to the audio and video. One of the bigger changes in HTML5 is it allows the multimedia capabilities. Bare minimum necessary to add video to your web page is a video tag and a SRC attribute, which I believe is source.
Yes.
It points to a file somewhere. And in my case, in my code, the source actually points to what I created, an audio file, or audio page, we'll call it, and then I wrote the code in that page, kind of like you would with the JavaScript. And so in the audio and the video are very similar as far as writing in the tag and the source, except you got with that, sorry. But you can see they're very similar. Other one says video, one says audio.
Now there's a lot of different aspects you can add to these video and audio. I don't know if you know that. You can add things like replay or size or
right. Yeah.
All sorts of different things that you can add to it that make your video and your audio a lot nicer.
Yeah, and get buttons and all kinds of stuff. But like I said, I was just happy to make things work.
Yeah.
Okay, so the canvas tag is used to draw graphics, and I when I did JavaScript and earlier and the web development, what is it, 230? We never used canvas that I can recall, so I didn't even know what that was when we talked about it the other night. So upon reading it, you can. Canvas element is just the container, and then you have to write the code in JavaScript to actually draw the graphics. And so canvas, and then you write the ID. So it's kind of like you got to use the camel case if you're going to do that. And then the height and width and the border of the whatever you want to display. And then when you write your JavaScript, you see, I don't know the right terms, but you want to call the ID of my canvas. I don't know if that's the right term, but
yeah.
But as the note says, you want to always, well, maybe that's where I should have read that, the attribute. You want to specify an ID attribute so it can be referred to in a script. See, I should have read that a little further. And the width and height attribute to define the size. Hey, well, look at that. I'm done with that.
Excellent.
Okay. So you want to see the pages first and then the code, or code?
I did have a question for you.
Pages. Oh, no, you don't.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
So when I read HTML5 tags, I mean, yes, I did read it as video, audio, canvas, but HTML5, so the headers and the body and the head, those have been here since XHTML.
The beginning.
Since the beginning. What came out with HTML5 were things like main and nav and
div.
section. No, div has been here for a while, but they came out with specific sections so that you didn't have to use div and ID on everything. They came out with things where you can actually put braces and put the word nav in it for navigation, rather than saying div ID equals nav.
So
You can now have those specific tags. So I don't know if they wanted you to go into it.
So
Maybe it might have.
when would you use section? I don't know if I've ever used that one before.
So you would use section for, so like inside main, you could have like a left and right section.
Okay.
Or you can use article. Article's another one for when you actually have an article tag or an article blurb or whatever. You can use the word article, the tag article, and you can go in and say, oh, here, I'm.
Okay.
You know, it'll like Mark was saying, that when the SEO comes in and reads your headings, it also reads all the other things. So it can tell where your navigation is, where your main is, how many articles you have, and that will actually build your SEO or your search engine optimization.
I guess
so that when someone says, oh, I need an article that does this, it'll go through and say, oh, well, there's a ton of articles here. Boom.
Yeah.
And it helps with that. Not necessarily that it makes it different.
Yeah.
But makes it nicer.
That's a good takeaway, so I guess for me, because you know, sometimes I'll just start designing my website or something, and I'll throw whatever I want in there, but I forget that, you know, if these search engines are looking through your web pages and, you know, you're not getting hits because of the way you've designed a web page, that's pretty important, I guess.
Or the words you use, because a lot of the times it'll look for keywords within your page, and if you're not using the right keywords, it's like, oh, well, not getting you. Sorry, going a little more in depth than you probably wanted. Go ahead and show us your code, Mark.
Oh, you want to see the code first? Okay.
Well, no, you can show us how it looks. This is how the teacher would look at it first, is to show how it looks.
Okay.
And then we can go through the code on how it looks.
So John, I stole your BYU Idaho picture. I hope you don't mind. But I want you to notice I turned that into a fave icon, and it's up in my up on my tabs.
Nice.
Nice.
So I kind of recalled how to do that, and I actually have it's a web page, this fave icon and app icon generator, and it takes the PNG and then gives it to you in all different sizes and everything. So
nice.
yeah, it was kind of a neat little thing, and then I just copied it over to my index file there. Okay, so this is my main portfolio page here. I realize I need to add the word portfolio on here somewhere, but I'll get that later. And then I have 3 different links. I wanted to do each page separately. So I have the audio page, and then I just, you know, I don't know if you'll hear this or not. Let's see. I don't know. You couldn't probably hear that very well, huh?
What does it say?
It just says this is a sample audio file. I think it's because we're on Google Hangouts. Let's see if you can hear. Listen closely. Yeah, maybe you didn't hear it.
I thought I heard something right at the very end there, but not.
Yeah, it basically says this is a sample audio file, but it does work. And then I have this video page. Boy, that's a good-looking guy. And this is the same thing. I don't know. You probably won't be able to hear it, but did you see my mouth move at least?
I heard it that time.
Oh,
just
okay.
very, very faint.
Yeah. And so, yeah, there's that. And each of my pages have the same headings and some of that stuff. And then the Canvas page, I just created this rectangle with some text inside of it. And I just put a little circle inside of a rectangle. you know, I've never used Canvas. I went to W3 schools, is that what that's called?
Yeah.
And did a little research on what they are, and they had some JavaScript code for these triangles and stuff.
I think those are rectangles, not triangles, but
I'm sorry, rectangles. Hey, you know, geometry. Yeah, there's borders along it.
Same difference.
Yeah, so this is my index page that points to each of the different, has each of the links there, the references, hyperlinks, I think they would call that. And then this, of course, is in the table. And I'm still learning all this T-body and all that table stuff. And then there's my H1s, you know, my headings that are on there. Okay, so that's that. And then the audio. Now, see, I've got some of these divs and stuff. I probably don't need them anymore. I copied and pasted from some other pages I had from 230, so I would at least have a starting point. I don't know. Hopefully, that's not cheating. I think it's being resourceful.
Look, see, you got a main tag in there. Line 20. That's one of the new HTML5 tags. There you go.
Hey, there you go. But anyway, so I just pointed my source to the audio, to my audio file, and same with the video file right here, and then the Canvas file, and then you know, I created two different IDs, Canvas and Canvas One, or my Canvas, different sizes, so the would fit in there. I needed a little bit wider, and the other one with the circle inside of the rectangle. So anyway, that's I don't know, that's pretty much it for me.
No, that's pretty cool. I'd never heard of, or at least worked with Canvas very much.
Yeah, this first time for me.
Interesting.
Absolutely. So anyway, that was my 2 days worth of programming.
Yeah, that's very good.
It looks good.
Thank you. Week 2 in the books.
So that stuff that we're talking about and done today, so does that fall under the JavaScript piece we're supposed to turn in?
I don't think you necessarily have to turn in a JavaScript piece. I think that's just one of the very first ones on there, but you don't have to turn them in the same in order, I don't think. Okay. I can double check that, but I would assume.
What are you referring to, John? The teaching.
Here, let me share my screen. I think I can show you what he's
referring to. The teaching schedule?
Well,
no.
He had us create those 10.
So there's in his topics here on this Word doc for week 2. There's JavaScript, JSON, local storage, DOM, CSS3, 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 AJAX, JavaScript events. These are the ones that are supposed to go in the portfolio.
I think that's just a sample of what topics we're going to be doing. I don't think that's any order that he put it in. You can do whatever order you want.
Yeah, because the CSS3 transitions and animations, those were at the very bottom of the teaching schedule.
Yeah.
Meaning, I don't think this matters. As long as he can see on here, nothing here is updated, but say you did AJAX and he sees, oh, this was updated and you've got a note on it. This is my first attempt. Please review it. He'll know, oh, okay, they started with this one. Let me go check it.
Yeah, that's what
you don't have to have any JavaScript.
That's what mine say. They show first attempt or last updated with today's date, first attempt, please review.
But the stuff like your audio, video, this and that stuff, does that fall under any of these?
That's what I was actually wondering. because I don't see it on here. But at the same time, on the teaching schedule, there's
I
13
don't think all-
topics here. So I don't think he wrote
Yeah.
all of the topics down. I think he just said some of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a sample.
Yeah. I think I'm going to stick with the topics in the teaching schedule.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I'm doing.
So do we
I
need
hope
to change?
so.
Yeah, he doesn't have the loops and for loops and stuff on there.
I noticed that too. So, oh yeah. Here's a something to help you relax, guys. I don't know if you saw this.
That was really.
This is a dog on a plane with a bow tie.
Yeah, there you go.
We should ask them if we should change that stuff to match the stuff we just learned. You know what I mean?
We can jump in the teachers meeting. It's still going till about 8. We can go ask him. Or one of us can jump in and ask, and then
Well, I'm just
I'll
wondering.
put it
I'm
in
trying to
Slack.
figure out where I'm supposed to start. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I am the same way. So I'm actually going to jump in the instructors meeting and go find out. And I can post it in the Slack message.
Okay,
General
and then
board.
so we meet next week or starting Wednesdays, and then it's 6 o'clock
Correct.
because I'll
Mountain
be,
time.
I'll just because I remember that because I'm just gonna stay at work because it's 5 o'clock here and I'm just getting off, so I'll just stay until the meeting's
And
done,
if
and I'll
that-
go home.
If that ends up being to where it's too stressful, you need to get home to do something else, we can always change it. So just let us know.
Well, we'll see. I don't have to do mutual anymore, so.
True.
Okay, I guess is that it?
I think so. Did
Well,
anybody, we talked about trying to talk about GitHub. Did anybody need help getting that set up or getting NetBeans set up or getting their anything else set up?
I think I'm doing okay now.
Um,
GitHub stuff.
We need to find Michael though. I don't know if he's still with us or not. We need to figure that
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, I messaged him on Slack saying, "Are you coming?" And didn't
he
do
jumped
anything.
on for a moment. I noticed he was there for a bit and then he left. So I don't know if he got busy with something else. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
I
at least this is recorded. I'll send him the link for sure and say, "Here, go learn about this and figure it out."
See
Yeah.
you next Wednesday.
So,
Yeah.
so we're going to have the teacher basically review this stuff next week. Is that what we're trying to keep us on schedule? We have to get a few of these topics done, and then
Yeah. So what it might end up being is that you get the 2 topics that we did this week plus the 2 topics we're going to do next week. Put all of those together and then say, "Here, I've got all 4 of these done. Please review them."
right, okay,
And then probably the next, so not the next week, but the week after, say, "Okay, now I've got 4 new topics." Hopefully they're 4
Yeah.
new ones and not, repeats.
yeah,
So next week is local storage, Ajax, and object creation functions, inheritance, properties, methods.
yeah.
So those are 3 new ones. Week 4 is JSON with Jason, manipulating CSS, and that's it for that one. So we will have technically 5 new topics by 2 weeks. After,
Wow.
at the end of week 4, we'll have 5 new topics because 3
Who's gonna-
people and then 2 people teaching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
Well,
going to be a
my-
busy class.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm just
telling me.
now if we're just supposed to follow these topics that he has on here and put those into the
That's, I think, what I'm going to do. I'm going to check with him, find out,
thing.
which means I need to probably go jump over there. So
Okay.
thanks, everyone. If
Yeah,
you
thank
need
you.
anything, send a
Hey,
Slack message. I
did you
have it come to my
his room?
phone. So what?
I think I saw something. You said he changed his Adobe room.
Yes,
Oh,
he
yeah.
did change his Adobe room. It's now Bro James instead of GT James. So I put that in Slack. So,
Okay.
Seems like he changes it every week.
well,
Sorry.
he was having difficulty, so he changed it.
Oh, okay.
That's why, if you didn't see the email.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Okay.
I'm
So.
not bothered. It's just funny. Okay.
All right, I'm going to stop the broadcast.